Part 24. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 231. Tao Ran was also determined not to give up until the end, so she started practicing martial arts based on Yutong's memory. Yutong's basic skills are very good, and Tao Ran also has some basic skills. She adapts well by following her memory. Within a few days, she was basically able to use 60% to 70% of Yutong's moves. The feeling of practicing martial arts is so amazing. Tao Ran was a little obsessed. In the past, she worked hard to instill her knowledge into the task body, but this time it was finally the other way around. She wants to steal her master. She wants to learn martial arts. With her ambition to improve, she began to memorize the exercises and mental methods every day, and became familiar with the operation of internal forces. She doesn't ask that she can become a peerless master after returning to her own body, but she hopes that these exercises will help to strengthen her body. Granny Hua has a lot of minor health problems, and this breath adjustment method should also be very helpful to her. The queen is busy, Tao Ran is studying, and Yerukiu from Chuxiu Palace is crying every day. In comparison, Ji Rong, who later entered Chuxiu Palace, was better than Yerukiu. Although Ji Rong has no brains, he thinks he is smart and well-rounded. So no matter how dissatisfied she was, on the first day she entered Chuxiu Palace, she was generous and was not ostracized. But Yerukiu, who had always maintained a high self-esteem, felt noble and upright, was different. She is a complete double-standard idealist. She never feels wrong about herself and feels that all her actions are excusable. But for others, her requirements are much stricter. All those who disagree with her are evil forces. All evil forces disappoint her, and all evil deeds disgust her. Therefore, the condescending look in her eyes that she showed from time to time made everyone in Chuxiu Palace hate her. She couldn't live this day any longer. Physically and mentally, I was almost exhausted. The meals in Chuxiu Palace are distributed daily according to seats. She was a new beauty who was punished and grounded, and she was at the end every day. As a result, when she comes here, she either only has a few side dishes and steamed buns, or she has rice and pickles. She couldn't eat and lost weight. I stewed some supplements, but someone stole them. The mattress she originally slept on was confiscated because it did not comply with the regulations, so she now uses an ordinary quilt with satin. How can she sleep without silk? To make matters worse, one night, a mouse got into her room, which frightened her so much that she had a high fever the next day, and she couldn't sleep for several nights. But Li Bin said it was impossible. There may be rats in the palace occasionally, but with so many people living in Chuxiu Palace, it is absolutely impossible. She had to be taught by her nanny every day and was required to copy 30 pages of scriptures every day. She had to rewrite any mistakes or dirty paper, and she couldn't bear it anymore. She begged someone to send a message to the emperor and asked him to save her. The emperor sent a letter but asked her to endure it. They said it was only 3 months, gritted their teeth and passed. He said that if he came forward for her again at this time, it would affect the overall plan. But she really couldn't do it anymore. In just a short time, she lost weight and became sick. If this continues, she may not survive 3 months. And, she is anxious. Although no one is favored in the Chuxiu Palace, the news is well informed. Who has the emperor favored recently? Mensheng. When the imperial concubine is ill, the emperor is most empty. No, she heard that the emperor had recently gone to see concubine Xian, the granddaughter of the great scholar Gu, twice, and he had also summoned Ning Cai, who had just entered the palace last year, several times, with a delicate and graceful temperament and the same type as her. In a few nights, Ning Cai had become Ning Gui. The emperor likes that. If this continues, will he change his mind? Yerukia felt a strong sense of crisis. She once again asked the emperor's people to deliver the message. All kinds of crying, all kinds of expressions that I can't live anymore. She also said that she knew that the emperor had a new favorite, and if she didn't see her again, she would sever ties with him. On the most serious day, she had someone send 2 letters in one day, saying that even if she couldn't be lifted from the ban, she still wanted to see him. There is no way, he has too many women, she is afraid that the relationship will fade away, she must maintain it, even if she does not talk about revisiting the old relationship, she must let the emperor see her situation with his own eyes and make him feel guilty. Maybe this can make him think of a way. Get yourself out early. After all, it was true love. How could the emperor bear to have his sweetheart hurt again? He could only agree and said that he would find a way to see her in the near future. So, on the night of the 15th, when the emperor stayed at the queen's palace as required, he proposed that the harem had not hosted a banquet for a long time. While the lotus flowers were blooming, it was better to hold a grand banquet by Tai Lake to make the harem and concubines happy. Of course, the most important thing is that the concubine Kinkayu is coming soon, so she can fulfill her filial piety. It's rare for an emperor to be so attentive and filial, so the queen naturally agreed. That day will come soon. Grand indeed. The queen arranged songs and dances according to the emperor's request, and also invited a theater troupe and a juggler's troupe. The emperor even invited several cousins to join in the fun. The whole palace was full of joy. The banquet was held in the shade by the lake, where the cool breeze was blowing, which was very comfortable. Except for Yerukiu, who was banned, all the concubines, regardless of their status, participated. Taoran felt new about this kind of ancient banquet, not because of the theater and side shows, but because of the banquet itself and the people attending it. This is the first banquet she has experienced since arriving in ancient times. It's completely different from the ones on the set. As for the dishes, there are 36 of them, most of which have never been seen before. The same goes for people. Because the concubine who passed her birthday was highly respected, many relatives of the emperor came. She had to admit it. She still has to look for it. Is there a successor to the throne in the royal family? The current emperor has no heirs, so to overthrow him, there must be a new emperor who agrees with him and can stand with him, so that he can be named the Queen Mother, right? Therefore, Taoran glanced at the crowd from time to time. Princes, many of them are of the late emperor's generation. They are too old. People in ancient times had short lifespans. They might get burped at any time. It is not a good thing for the country or Yutong. The emperor's brothers, almost all of them are dead, only the 2 younger ones are left, otherwise the late emperor would not be able to choose the current emperor. It's too small, it's too troublesome. Yutong was only suitable to be a queen dowager in leisure time. It would be another thing if she had to listen to politics behind the curtain. So, the only way to find it is among the royal cousins. So Taoran read it several times among the emperor's cousins. She couldn't help but sigh. Can these people do it? The late emperor made the wrong choice, can she choose the right one? The male guests were making flower arrangements, and Taoran watched for a while. There are a few of them who are indeed quite talented. I just don't know what people are like. Halfway through the banquet, most of the female guests went to the theater and the side shows, while the male guests, who were good drinkers, were still drinking. Having drunk too much, he had already laid down and was helped to a guest room not far away to rest. For example, the emperor was given too much wine and was helped down. Taoran and the queen looked at each other. The queen raised an eyebrow. The 2 looked away again. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 232. At this moment, the drunk emperor had just gone to a nearby palace to change his clothes and pretended to be his father-in-law. He was at his wits' end. His sweetheart is undergrounding, and he cannot easily summon someone to break the rules. But in order to reassure her and prevent her from being so sad every day, he had better come to comfort her. All the masters of the Chuxia palace were gone, and most of the maids had gone to watch the fun. Kyokyu also sent away the two people arranged by the queen, who were waiting for him in the room. His people searched the entire Chuxia palace. At this moment, only a few old ladies from the kitchen were there, and they were all anxiously waiting to finish their work so that they could watch a show. Therefore, the emperor easily went in with his father-in-law, who was placed next to Yerukyu. No one found out. In order not to attract attention, he only brought one guard who also pretended to be a father-in-law into the Chuxia palace. His personal guards pretended to be bodyguards and patrolled around the perimeter of Chuxia palace. As for his confidant, eunuch he was still covering for him in the vacant palace not far from Chuxia palace. A little farewell is better than a wedding. The two people who hadn't seen each other for a long time stuck together the moment the door was closed. One party cried, the other comforted them. Gradually, the voices became lower. Well, there was a lively performance outside at the moment, so they had at least half an hour for a private meeting. The two of them were relieved. After all, it's true love. We haven't seen each other for so many days, so it's just you and me. The emperor also felt fresh. This is the first time he has played like this, and it is very exciting. So, when the love between the two became stronger, they continued their old relationship lying down. It wasn't until more than a quarter of an hour later that a burst of noise ruined the fun. It was Ji-rong who did it. The recent quarrel between Ji-rong and Yerukyu has been quite unpleasant. In Ji-rong's view, he was brought to Chuxia Palace all because of Yerukyu's trouble in Yukon Palace. Unlucky for him, he happened to be displeased with the queen, and ended up being implicated by Yerukyu and sent to this miserable place. How could she bear this debt? On the day she first arrived, her slave was late for the meal. As a result, the last 3 dishes were taken away by Yerukyu's people. At that time, she was unhappy and came to the door directly. Yerukyu is just a beauty. She has a higher status, so she should be given priority. She wanted to teach Yerukyu a lesson, so she asked her confidants to vent her anger on him. Ji-rong also took 3 steps and 2 steps at a time to reach Yerukyu and slapped him away. But she didn't succeed and was stopped by Yerukyu's palace servants. Feeling that she had lost all face, she found Libby and wanted to punish Yerukyu's master and servant. But the strange thing is that Libby, who was very polite to her before, said this time, it's better to do less than to do more, and didn't care about it at all. Ji-rong felt that he had suffered a loss and lost face, and hated Yerukyu. After that, for some reason, whenever it was time to receive supplies, they were the last to receive them. Ji-rong's slaves were not as strong as the men given by the emperor at Yerukyu's place, and Ji-rong didn't want to lose his figure by grabbing supplies, so Ji-rong never took advantage. And when things like this happened more and more, Ji-rong regarded Yerukyu as his nemesis. Take the cloth given this time as an example. The remaining 2 pieces were one pink and one blue. The pink pattern was elegant, while the blue one was old-fashioned. However, her people still couldn't overtake Yerukyu's people. In the end, she stepping on that piece of blue cloth, I vowed that one day I would step on Yerukyu too. Ji-rong dressed up nicely today, hoping to attract the emperor's attention. But in the whole palace, how many concubines don't think so? In short, the emperor never looked at Ji-rong from beginning to end. Ji-rong could only have a cup of comfort with her sisters from Chuxia. Later, several people went to change clothes together. While Ji-rong was waiting for her sisters, she happened to hear the whispers of 2 palace maids in the corner. Did you see it? Can you not see it? It's so scary that my heart almost jumped out of my chest. I didn't expect that person to be so non-stop. A person who has offended 2 empresses, the queen and the concubine, is so brave. Concubine and father-in-law, I only heard about it in secret stories before, but I didn't expect it to be true. Have you seen that father-in-law's face? It's a pity that I didn't see clearly. The two of them hugged each other as soon as they opened the door, which scared me. Really? If I hadn't gone to deliver something, I wouldn't have seen this scene. I really didn't expect that Chiu Mei is so mean. Are you really unable to bear the loneliness? You are still looking for a man in the confinement. Is father-in-law a man? Pht, beauty Chiu is really not taboo. Ji Rong was stunned. Her sisters who had just walked out were also stunned. Several people wanted to catch up, but the two palace ladies had already disappeared. At that moment, Ji Rong felt that it was time for her to take revenge. Sisters, let's go and take a look. If it's true, help me kill that woman in one fell swoop. I won't let you suffer. Ji Rong was able to find someone to play with in Chuxia Palace so quickly, all because of her generous actions. As a result, the two young talents, who came from ordinary families and had not yet accepted the favor, were moved. Not only because of wealth, but also because the beauty Chiu was disliked by the queen and the concubine at the same time. If she could help Ji Rong destroy her, she might be able to win the favor of the queen and the concubine, and it would not necessarily be a bright future from now on. The three women led the servants back. Soon, they discovered that there was a father-in-law guarding the gate of Chuxia Palace. They all knew that man. Wasn't he Yerukiu's man? Okay, why are you standing outside the palace gate? It is indeed a scam. As soon as they gathered together, they separated into two groups, attracting attention all the way and waiting for opportunities to move. The two young talents acted like they were drunk. When they saw that they were approaching the Chuxia Palace, they fell to the ground. Strange to say, they were just pretending, but for some reason, their feet slipped, their legs twitched, and the pain started, and they really fell down. As a result, 1 belt, 2 belts, and 2 belts, 4 belts, fell into pieces at once, and I cried out in pain. Outside the gate of Chuxia Palace, Yerukiu's father-in-law saw that they were drunken talents from Chuxia Palace. He was afraid that their noise would ruin the emperor's elegance, so he quickly stepped forward to shut them up. The fall of several people attracted the attention of those who were passing by. Even the personal guards arranged by the emperor rushed over and hurriedly diverted such a group of people. But the young man actually sprained his foot, his ankle was swollen, and he was crying and confused for a while. Ji Rong took advantage of the opportunity to seduce the tiger away from the mountain, and without anyone noticing, Ji Rong had already led her people into the Chuxia Palace. After entering the door, she did not go to the back carelessly, but followed the corner and went around the back wall of the apse. Ji Rong was good at martial arts. He quickly disappeared with his feet. Yerukiu's room was the remaining one, located in the oldest corner. Even if you can't see it with your eyes, you still have to hear it with your ears, right? Ji Rong easily scaled another wall and reached under the window of Yerukiu's room. She couldn't see clearly the person on the bed while holding the crack in the window, but she heard some inappropriate movements. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 233. Ji Rong was proud. Yerukiu finally got her to grasp the situation. I never expected that this woman would even be interested in her father-in-law. However, no matter who the person in the secret meeting with her was, Yerukiu was finished. If she dares to cuckold the emperor, her days are over. How could Ji Rong miss such a good opportunity? So, when she climbed over the wall and was in a good mood, it was also when she was in full swing. She suddenly appeared outside the door of Yerukiu's room, startling the emperor's guards who were pretending to be eunuchs in the corridor. She smiled at the eunuch, looked up and down, and slowly approached. "It's strange," she said quietly. "This father-in-law is clearly not from Chuxia Palace. Yerukiu, you are really capable. Stealing a love is such a big deal. Did you go to another palace to find help?" The eunuch hadn't decided yet whether to send her away first or knock her out directly, but unexpectedly, the concubine who had been slowly walking up the corridor just now would go directly to Mentong. The guard panicked and immediately stopped him. At the same time that Ji Rong kicked the door, the guard's attack also arrived. The door was quite strong and didn't even open. Ji Rong started fighting with the guards. Although Ji Rong didn't expect that her father-in-law was so skilled, she had already thought about what to do. When the blow missed, she shouted loudly, "Come here! My father-in-law is hurting someone. Help!" Her voice was sharp, and it instantly echoed dozens of feet around the Chuxia Palace. "Shut up!" The guard panicked and hurriedly knocked on the door and shouted a warning. And the shouting outside Chuxia Palace also began to appear. The guard didn't know why so many people came to him just by calling him. Ji Rong was still asking for help. She knew that at most 15 breaths, outsiders would be able to follow the sound and arrive. The two talented sisters fell outside the door, causing many people to watch. Those people must have heard her cry for help. People in the palace love to meddle in other people's business. If there is excitement, you will definitely not miss it. Today's banquet was filled with guards patrolling everywhere. If you hear the call for help, everyone will definitely come. Therefore, although Ji Rong was obviously at a disadvantage and received several blows in a row, he still gritted his teeth and tried to kick down the door while dealing with the father-in-law. And the father-in-law was also anxiously knocking on the door. He didn't dare to call Emperor and could only emphasize, "Hurry, and here comes someone." When the Emperor in the room heard the first kick on the door, he jumped up in fright and rolled out of bed. Hateful! What kind of woman is it that ruins his good deeds and frightens his body? But the next moment, he broke into cold sweat. Is there someone coming from outside? How good is this? Almost instantly, the Emperor thought of the many consequences he would face if he was discovered. First of all, Yerukia was grounded, reflecting, and being punished, but at this time, he appeared in her room. He broke the rules, he was disrespectful, and he was even more conniving. He broke the ancestral system. He will be attacked by those ministers who care about his life, and Kyokiu, who has offended the queen, is afraid that he will not survive. Secondly, it is daytime, and it is shameful to profess sexual intercourse in the daytime. Especially since he is the emperor, this will harm his reputation. In the court, those old men will definitely attack him again. Thirdly, today's banquet is based on the concubine's birthday. On such a day, does he do such a thing before the banquet is over? Is it considered disrespectful or unfilial? This article will be challenged, let alone the court, even among the people he will be scolded to death. Also, once the affair between him and Kyokiu is exposed, he will have to pretend to be affectionate with the concubine, which will ruin the plan. The concubine's heart is with him and cannot be hurt. If she gave up her choice in the future, how could he attack those old officials? Moreover, he even pretended to be drunk in order to see Kyokiu. Everyone saw just now that he couldn't walk and was helped down by the left and right. Now that he was exposed, wouldn't it prove that he had just deceived everyone? This is to discredit him. She would rather pretend to be drunk than come to Kyokiu. Then wouldn't Kyokiu be cut into pieces? Also, he disguised himself as a eunuch and sneaked into the Chuxia palace. If someone discovered him, his reputation as an emperor would be ruined. He would be laughed to death, and would be written into a story and recorded in unofficial history. At that time, those old men will think he is ridiculous and are not willing to hand over power. His desire to take power is tantamount to wishful thinking. Horrible. These are all things he doesn't want to face. Therefore, He must not be discovered. He must leave quickly. Otherwise, both he and Kyokyou will be doomed. The emperor was sweating coldly and started to get dressed hurriedly. It's too urgent. The noise outside was getting closer and closer, and his guards were shouting, saying, "Many people are coming in." The emperor put on his trousers, put on his clothes, and stepped on his shoes in a hurry. He even fell down. Ji-rong couldn't beat that father-in-law. When the father-in-law saw that the situation was not good, he became ruthless. His moves were sharp and he hit the vital point several times in a row. Ji-rong was beaten to the ground and vomited 3 mouthfuls of blood, just like when she attacked her cousin a few days ago. Then, she watched helplessly as the father-in-law opened the door and rushed in. Seeing a large group of people approaching, the guard also carried one person from the house and rushed out. The people who arrived in response only saw an old man with his back covered and his face covered with only the clothes on his back, climbing over the wall directly. Everyone was stunned. The palace guards who arrived after hearing the news chased after him one after another, and for a while, signals were everywhere. Those who were watching the excitement and didn't mind the matter actually followed suit and chased after him. The rest of the people, except for those who were calling for the queen and the royal physician, had already arrived at Chiumiran's room where the door was knocked open. Yerukiu, who was busy helping the emperor get dressed, was a step too late and just started to put on her middle coat. Her panic-stricken look caught everyone's eyes. "Hurry! Catch her quickly," someone ordered. "No. It's not." "What is it not?" Yerukiu didn't know how to say it and didn't dare to say it. She had already burst into tears. She was more sad than scared. Because the emperor only said one sentence to her from the moment he bounced off the bed to leaving, "Don't say it's me. If you don't say it's him, then who? At this time, why don't you help her?" She was actually allowed to face such a scene now alone? He didn't know that if she was caught like this, it would be a dead end. What kind of true love is this? Sure enough, do they all fly away when disaster strikes? You say you will always protect yourself, is this how you protect yourself? So wronged. But I am a person who puts the overall situation first. How could you sell the emperor? Yerukiu was so pretentious and pretentious in the eyes of outsiders that she was detained without even putting on her clothes. Ji-rong, who was helped over there, dragged his seriously injured body, but he didn't forget to slap Yerukiu's face with his paw while the queen and others were not coming. She was so angry. "I have suffered such a big loss, and I don't know how long it will take to recover. There is no reason not to collect some interest to get it back." Her claws were full of fire, and all the strength was in her nails. As soon as it was scraped off, 5 bloody traces were left on Yerukiu's pink face. "I don't know if it will leave any scars." Yerukiu screamed and cursed, "How dare you? What am I afraid of?" Ji-rong grabbed the handkerchief and wiped the flesh under his nails. "You are so shameless, why are you still showing off your face?" Ji-rong is really not afraid. She didn't think Yerukiu had any chance to make a comeback. He was a drowned dog. If he didn't fight, it would be in vain. As long as you are happy. Thank you for the goblin's meat claws. When I am under the sycamore tree, I just want to be happy, smooth, and healthy. My book friend's tale number is 230,011, my book friend's tale number is 712,822, my book friend's tale number is 020326, Coke with ice. There is a scholar in the world, the impatient little corgi, eat a bean, ruined and other babies' rewards. Thank you everyone for your monthly ticket recommendation. I love you more than anything, okay. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 234. The queen was eating nearby, so she came quickly. That's unreasonable. She walked with the wind, menacingly. What a daring bitch. He dares to do anything. He hides his head and tail and dares to hurt the concubine. It's simply abominable. As soon as the queen showed up, she had already made her attitude clear. She would not cover up or cover up. It needs to be investigated strictly. Not only did they not clear out everyone, the queen also chose to turn a blind eye even to the bloodstains on Yerukiu's face. This also made Ji-rong determined to report Yerukiu. "So, who came out of your room?" the queen asked directly. Yerukiu was busy dressing when the emperor left, so she was not sure if anyone saw the emperor and the others leaving. At this moment, she naturally replied simply, "There is no one in my concubine's room." "Do you think I am a fool, or do you think so many people are blind? Come on. Palm her. Palm her until she says so." A nun came up, fired her bow from left to right, showed no mercy, and didn't care about the injuries on Yerukiu's face, and slapped her repeatedly. What Yerukiu hates most is being slapped in the face. After being slapped in the face last time, the swelling didn't completely subside until a few days ago. This time, it's the queen again. How could she not be annoyed? She just stared at the queen, thinking that this woman was not worthy of being the queen at all. When something scandal occurs in the palace, shouldn't the first thing be to cover it up? If something scandalous happens, does she, the queen, lose her reputation? If we really want to investigate, we should do it secretly. Then the emperor only needs to show up secretly, and the matter will be over. But she just seemed to be fair and strict and was tossing around here. She never thought that more and more people would gather. Would it be the emperor who was embarrassed? The late emperor was really blind and chose such a stupid queen for Wulang. The queen was angered by that look. "What's your expression? Are you contradicting me? Keep fighting. Don't stop." It was only at this time that Yerukiu heard the comments from the onlookers that she realized that many people had seen the eunuch climbing the wall and escaping. What's more, the old ladies in the Chuxiu Palace kitchen actually saw the whole process from the moment Ji-rong and father-in-law started, and now they were describing it vividly. "Queen, I just hired someone," to speak. Yerukiu could only change her words. The queen waved her hand to signal her to stop first. She wanted to hear how Yerukiu planned to explain. "The person Miss Chu is recruiting can't be the emperor, right?" the queen teased. "Either way, it would be exciting whether he was the emperor or not. Everyone is already talking, saying that it cannot be the emperor. They all saw that the emperor was drunk, and eunuch he was still guarding the guest house. And if the emperor is so drunk, he can't do anything, right? If Chiu Myron wants to say that the man is the emperor, is it a crime to deceive the emperor?" Yerukiu thought of the emperor's warning when he left, and could only say, "No, not the emperor. Just a father-in-law. What do you say when you recruit a father-in-law? I just want to ask about today's banquet. Then you can ask what the emperor is wearing today, which troop is from, and who is not attending the banquet. I haven't had time to ask yet. Which palace did you recruit the eunuch from? What's his name? You're confined to your room, how did you recruit the eunuch?" The queen asked 3 questions directly. Yerukiu stuttered. She was not a liar in the first place, and now that she had started a lie, it was not easy to keep it true. She didn't dare to tell nonsense because it would be too easy to be exposed. In the crowd, the palace maids and eunuchs who had been guarding outside Chuxiu Palace but were later attracted by the 2 young talents knelt out together. "It's the minions. The young master has been in confinement for a long time." Hearing the sound of singing outside, he wanted to ask what was being sung. The minions invited a passing father-in-law outside the Chuxiu Palace to come in and give a reply. That's all. The queen looked at the 2 people. These 2 were the men assigned by the emperor to Yerukiu. She is actually better at talking than Yerukiu. "Are you 2 on duty today?" "Yes." "Catch him." The 2 were frightened and quickly knelt down and kowtowed, saying that they had been wronged and that what they said was true. Unjustly accused. Where did you feel unjustly accused? You were on duty, but you neither waited on me in the house nor guarded the door. Instead, you only showed up now. Why are you unjustly accused? Come and take me away for trial. The two emperors were directly defeated by the queen, who refused to listen to arguments. Now, Yerukiu, who was alone and unable to support herself, was really scared. I give you one last chance to confess. Who is that father-in-law? I don't know you. I don't know you. I just found him on the roadside. The queen waved her sleeves, and the bottle on the machine flew out and hit Yerukiu on the head. After receiving the queen's signal, Bai Ling came forward and asked Yerukiu in one breath. The two cups on the table are filled with fruit wine. Could it be that Beauty Chiu is sitting and drinking with an unknown father-in-law? There is my father-in-law's coat on the floor inside. How can a strange father-in-law go to the bedroom of one of your concubines? Then when my father-in-law said this, why did he still take off his clothes and belt? Why is father-in-law's coat thrown on the ground beside the bed? The smell of alcohol on those clothes is very strong, the smell of strong liquor. May I ask where the father-in-law dares to drink secretly while on duty? There is still residual warmth on Chiu Myron's bed, and the quilt is messy. Did Chiu Myron call her father-in-law to talk to her while she was lying on the bed? Isn't Beauty Chiu's sleeping position bad? Why is it that one person sleeps on the same bed? What's going on with Chiu Myron's clothes? And the most important thing is, what kind of incense are you burning in your incense burner? The concubine smelled it and understood instantly. This aroma is very familiar. It's obviously. The imperial doctor who had just arrived and was treating Ji Rong's injuries responded with a signal, it's just for sexual intercourse. The sound of gasping continued again. If you can argue with the others, what about this one? That aphrodisiac thing, can't you light it yourself and play with it? There is no need to wash this. At this point, no matter what Yerukiu said, the facts were meaningless. The queen was afraid that the emperor would protect her, so she gave her all the evidence one by one in front of everyone. Everyone said that Yerukiu's reputation had been completely ruined. Even if you save your life, you can't climb up anymore. Neither the DPRK nor the people in the country will recognize her. But I wonder if the emperor will continue to protect her? The queen looked stern. My mate Yu is really full of lies, and her words don't match her words. I have already given you a chance, but you are despising me. The crime is even worse. Ji Rong seized the opportunity again and immediately knocked on the ground. I am a victim and a witness. I can prove what Chiu Myron did. I live next door to Chiu Myron and can hear everything clearly. I drank too much and wanted to sleep for a while, but I called Chiu Myron. The two of them were so noisy that they couldn't sleep. It's not like I haven't slept with you before, so can you still not understand the sound? The concubine was frightened, thinking that Chiu Mei was so bold, and planned to stop her with words, but before she could speak, she was beaten like this. I can confirm that Chiu Myron is having an affair with someone. In addition, the father-in-law who was guarding the gate was so good at it that he was very shy. When I was fighting with her, he reminded Chiu Myron several times that his voice was extremely rough and was not his father-in-law's voice at all. I suspect that he is not my father-in-law at all. Maybe it was Chiu Myron's lover who disguised herself as the father-in-law and came to the secret meeting. Please also ask the queen to make a clear decision and make the decision for me. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 235. Everyone was shocked. Yes, not many of the father-in-laws in the palace are good at martial arts. The person who can beat Rong Jiu until she vomits blood is definitely not an ordinary person. Most likely not the father-in-law. Then the men who can walk around in the palace are either guests or only guards. I don't know who it is. Someone laughed, Maybe it was pointed out, so Chiu Mei really met more than one lover at once. Taking advantage of the excitement outside, she couldn't bear the loneliness and also started to liven up in her room. "Your Majesty, is your head touching the grassland?" Several old nuns from Chuxia Palace also came out again to prove that the two escaped father-in-laws were both tall and straight, with no father-in-law appearance at all. They were probably disguised. I couldn't see the appearance of the man who came out of the room, but the man who was fighting at the door did look like Zhou Zheng. The queen was very satisfied after listening to everyone's comments. There are so many guests today, so the news can be spread immediately. I'm afraid there is no need to wait for tomorrow, this matter will have to spread all over the capital. Can the emperor ignore death? Queen Chen's lips curled up. The Chiu nobleman is filthy/challenging the palace, hurting the concubines, and despising me. The sum of several crimes must be punished. Today is the birthday of the concubine. I will not be punished for the time being, but I will be imprisoned in Chuxia Palace for now. We will conduct a detailed trial tomorrow. Go and see if the emperor is awake. Report this matter. In addition, if the message continues, if the two people who escaped are not caught, all the guards and palace servants responsible for the order of the banquet today, as well as the servants of Chuxia Palace, will all be punished. Anyone who reports or catches the two men who are hiding can just come and report, and they will be rewarded heavily. As soon as these words came out, all the palace people present changed their expressions, and when Chu Ziyagong looked at Yerukiu, he wanted to eat her. What a disaster! This despicable plague god killed someone. The queen is going to make this a big deal. It's best to leave the emperor with no way to end it. Let the emperor no longer be able to pretend. Now it was no longer possible for her to sit still and wait for death. After being reminded by the imperial concubine that time, her people began to infiltrate from Yu's concubine's palace and track down to the Ye family. They soon learned that the emperor and Yerukiu were almost childhood sweethearts. After that, she personally interrogated Chinur, the palace maid who had been thrown into the clothes bureau, Yerukiu. The girl had a tough talk, but the queen secretly detained the girl's family and asked her to choose whether to protect the master or the family. She could choose one of the two. There is only one master, but there are 8 people in the family. In just one breath, Chinur has made the choice. Although she didn't know the emperor's plans, she knew that her master would be the queen in the future. The queen was stunned. Yerukiu, want to be the queen? What about her? Where is she, the current queen? Naturally, there is no place for it. The queen pressed forward step by step, and Chinur could only tell her that these words were not said casually, nor were they said by her mistress, but were promised by the emperor. This is the promise made by the emperor and the young master when they knelt down to the moon and heaven and earth in the courtyard on the day when the young master entered the palace. At that time, the queen's eyes were as cold as ice. Sure enough, she had been targeting the wrong person. Her opponent was never the concubine, but the emperor. Both she and the concubine were taken advantage of. After another round of coercion and inducement, Chinur gritted her teeth and told everything she knew after getting the queen's promise to spare her family and allow her to die. She said that the emperor and her mistress had a very good relationship. The emperor doted on his mistress and always said that they were the same people. The emperor cherished his little master, so he always protected him secretly. The emperor has been on the throne for several years, but no prince has been born. This is also because of the emperor's promise to his young master. The eldest son of the emperor must be their child. But the little master hasn't had the time to give birth yet, so the matter has been delayed. Although most of what Chinur said was about the emperor and her mistress, and did not involve the court or the elders, the little bit she revealed already frightened the queen. Once again, the queen found Yu Tong to play chess. "Get them," was Cao Ran's reply. It was so crisp and clear that the queen almost stopped answering. "Them. Yes, them. Do it all." Knowing that this piece of chess is ruined, instead of wasting time and effort to save it, it is better to open up a new territory. Recently, Chaoran has been waiting for the queen to investigate, waiting for the queen to become unable to sit still. At this point, we can actually see a little bit of their plan. The emperor has never tolerated you and the elders. You know this better than me. He doted on me just to use the strength of my family to let us fight. Strictly speaking, my family is also an old man, and sooner or later he will not be able to tolerate me. That time I was assassinated, I'm afraid it was his handiwork. How cruel was the attack? The purpose is to provoke conflicts among civil servants and military generals. If I had been fooled by him that time and summoned my father and brother to make a fuss and start a fight, the fight would have reached the court now. After all, the incident happened in his palace, and he was the only one with that ability. The queen didn't say anything. In fact, during the discussion with her family, she had deduced early on that the mastermind of the assassination was the emperor. The more I think about it, the more terrifying it becomes. Not only is the emperor ruthless in his methods, his acting skills are also extraordinary. It is precisely because of this that the Queen of Tianzhen and the imperial concubine arranged many masters into the palace. They don't want to die yet. Tao ran. So our target cannot be limited to Yerukiu, but them. It's the best time for you and I to work together and attack them unprepared. You think about it, and we can make a plan after thinking about it. In fact, there was one thing that Empress Chen never wanted to say or show, and that was that she hated the emperor. Much more hateful than Yu Tong. She entered the palace with a sense of family responsibility. She gained the late emperor's trust and wanted to be responsible for this choice. But that man almost killed everything she wanted to do. He has been going against her and irritating her, making her mentally and physically exhausted after having to bear the expectations of her family and the late emperor. She hated him for being ruthless and heartless, burning bridges across rivers and bridges. She has been enduring it. He kept fighting with the imperial concubine because he had been helping the imperial concubine. Her hostility towards the imperial concubine over the years was rather her hatred for the emperor. In fact, the queen realized earlier than Yu Tong that their family and the late emperor might have made the wrong choice. But she never dared to think about that step. And ever since Jiner confessed, a fire ignited in her heart. She was also pregnant when she first entered the palace. But the child was aborted, and she really thought it was because of her carelessness, until Jiner said a few days ago that the emperor's eldest son would be born to Yerukiu. So when Yu Tong opened her mouth, the fire in her chest burned out instantly. She wished she could set fire to it and destroy the man and woman who were ashamed of their ancestors and ministers. At this moment, she truly regarded Yu Tong as her ally. Okay, she didn't need time to think. So, just like that, today's drama came into existence. They had known that the two people were going to have a secret meeting and had already arranged several plans. So even if there is no Ji Rong, there will be others who will expose it. However, in order to deal with Yerukiu, they had already chosen Ji Rong and Yerukiu, who were incompatible with each other, so Ji Rong was the first choice. The reason why Ji Rong was able to succeed so easily was all because the Queen and Tao Ran arranged for people to secretly promote the situation and mobilize the people brought by the emperor as much as possible. Their target this time was apparently Yerukiu, but in fact, he was still the emperor. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 236. This is the first time in his life that the emperor is as ugly as he is today. He was disheveled and was carried across the eaves and walls by the guards. He was so frightened that he did not dare to say anything. There were many bumps and knocks along the way, and his body was torn apart in all directions. Originally, the distance from Chuxia Palace to the guest house where he changed clothes was only 100 feet, but they ran through many difficulties and dangers. Because of Ji Rong's shouting, almost all the surrounding guards were coming towards Chuxia Palace. They can only go through the back wall of Chuxia Palace. But whether it was because it had not been repaired for a long time or because of the previous heavy rain, the guards who came down from the wall did not stand firm. The soil on the ground was empty. Although the guard who missed his foot tried hard to balance, the emperor with weak hands and feet still slid down and sat down in the mud. Not caring about covering up his embarrassment or blaming the guards, the emperor was afraid of being discovered and just urged, "Hurry, hurry, hurry." The guards were running and hiding, and had no chance to contact their own people near Chuxia Palace to come to the rescue. You can imagine how difficult this journey was. I didn't dare to walk along the main road or along the palace wall, so I could only walk through the landscape trees. In this way, the straight line distance of 100 feet was more than doubled. From time to time, palace people would pass by, but they could only hide in the flowers. It didn't take long for the emperor to become disgraced. His snow-white clothes turned completely muddy, and his skin and tender flesh were scarred by the thorns of branches and flowers. Seeing that the guest courtyard was already 100 steps away, they watched helplessly as the imperial concubine rushed into the courtyard regardless of eunuch He's obstruction. Tao Ran just came here to digest food. Even so, the queen had already done most of the work, and she felt a little embarrassed to just keep doing it. After eating and drinking, she went out for a walk to see if there was anything she could do to make use of the topic. Even if she couldn't accomplish anything, she was still happy to cause trouble for the emperor. The emperor was a coward, and Tao Ran never thought from the beginning that he would step forward when faced with a crisis, even if that person was Yerukilu. She expected that the emperor would be a coward and run away. So she came to the guest house a quarter of an hour ago. However, when I walked quickly to the guest courtyard, I saw that in addition to eunuch He, there was also a young prince, Prince Ning, standing in front of the courtyard door. And until Tao Ran leisurely walked to the door, Prince Ning was still negotiating with eunuch He, saying that he had something to say to the emperor. At this time, come to see the emperor? Like yourself? Tao Ran couldn't help but look at him with a half smile but not a smile. Prince Ning was a cousin of the same age as the emperor. The year before last, his father died while fighting the enemy in the south, so he succeeded him as king. Speaking of which, their lineage is one of the few in the royal family that has some ability and knows how to serve their family and country and contribute to the country. But it was also because the old prince knew how to stay away from the royal family disputes in the capital that the entire lineage was preserved. King Ning rushed back from the south after being summoned by the emperor a month ago. Today's luncheon was especially lively because of the presence of him. During the lunch, Tao Ran noticed him. He was a candidate for the new emperor that Tao Ran had doubts about. Even, the number one alternative. In addition to being able to fight, he is also more pragmatic than the current emperor because he has been on the front line for many years. He at least knows what the real people of Li want. In addition, because, the emperor summoned him back a month ago, and he actually had no good intentions. The emperor had delusions of persecution and always felt that everyone would harm him. He was not at ease with all the military power deployed by the late emperor. This is true for Yu Tong's family, and it is also true for Prince Ning. To put it bluntly, he summoned Prince Ning back to the capital with the intention of seizing power. Tao Ran felt that compared to the other candidates, Prince Ning, who had been away from the capital and was about to lose his military power, should be easier to mobilize. So, when she saw Prince Ning outside the guest courtyard, she simply walked straight away. She greeted him with a gift. "Your Highness, Prince Ning is here to visit the emperor? Why don't you go in?" Prince Ning looked helpless after returning the gift, shrugged his shoulders and signaled to eunuch He. "Eunuch He won't let me in." "Tao Ran, why is this?" Eunuch He wiped the sweat from his forehead, The emperor is very drunk. The emperor said that no one is allowed to see and no one is allowed to disturb. So I will stay here. I hope the queen and the prince will take care of me. Your Majesty, you don't even see me. Chaoran's face turned cold. Please forgive me, my queen. I am also worried about the emperor, so I came here to take care of you. This is all the emperor's intention. I hope your Majesty will not embarrass the servant. Then who is taking care of the emperor inside? The emperor is asleep. Does that mean there's no one to take care of the emperor? Chaoran's face suddenly changed, and he pressed forward step by step, with full aura. Eunuch he. Don't you know that drunk people can easily choke and be in danger? You would rather talk nonsense outside than go in to take care of the emperor. This is dereliction of duty. It is even more ulterior to prevent me from caring about the emperor. It would be disrespectful to stop the prince. King Ning has military merit and has traveled thousands of miles to come back. You actually let King Ning sit in the sun and did not invite him to wait in the guest courtyard. Is this your attitude towards heroes? Is this what the emperor asks of you? The emperor has always valued loyal ministers and good generals. Knowing that you are so rebellious, how angry you should be. Does this count as being arrogant? What crime do you deserve? At that time, both Prince Ning and Eunuch He were stunned. However, Chaoran was too powerful and his voice was too loud. This scolding attracted the attention of many palace people. Eunuch He was frightened again. The hat is too big. He plopped down and quickly knelt down and kowtowed to explain. But before he could react, Chaoran arrogantly kicked him away and pushed the door straight into the courtyard. That's not all, she turned back to Prince Ning. Don't you, Your Highness, want to see the emperor? Why don't you go inside and wait? Prince Ning raised his eyebrows. This favor is a bit hot. But so what? In the next breath, he stepped up to follow. Eunuch He was anxious. He didn't dare to stop the imperial concubine, for fear of being accused of being disrespectful again. After all, so many people are watching. Moreover, who doesn't know that the imperial concubine never cares about her once she gets angry? He could only shout loudly, so when Chaoran walked into the courtyard, 2 guards were already blocking him in front of the main house door. What? The emperor didn't say anything, so you want to take action against me? Chaoran knew those 2 people, and they were both the emperor's close personal guards. Your Majesty, the slaves are just following orders. I am worried about the emperor, and I really don't feel at ease. She took a step forward, and the 2 guards looked at each other, and finally drew their swords to stop her. Okay, I have remembered that you two, Zhao Hu and Zhang Gang, are guilty of this crime. When the emperor wakes up, I will definitely punish you for your treason. After another confident scolding, more people poked their heads at the entrance of the courtyard. Eunuch He was about to cry but had no tears, so he stepped forward again and asked the imperial concubine to leave first, saying that he would personally take care of the emperor. Okay. Then Eunuch He, how about you hurry in and see the emperor? I am waiting for your reply. Just as Eunuch He was about to breathe a sigh of relief, he turned around and saw that the imperial concubine had already sat down at the stone table in front of the door and ordered tea. She had no intention of leaving immediately. Prince Ning, however, had no intention of leaving. Instead, he stood by the wall and looked at the flowers. Eunuch He is about to burst into tears. Not only was he afraid that the imperial concubine would find out that the emperor was absent, but he was also afraid that the emperor would not be able to come back because the imperial concubine and Prince Ning were watching here. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 237. The emperor really did not dare to return. He squatted in the grass in the corner of the courtyard, his legs already numb. He didn't know what to do. Why are things getting worse and worse? becoming increasingly impossible to cover up. The guest house is so big, and both Yutong and Prince Ning are both skilled in martial arts. If he follows the guards over the eaves and walks in, he will be discovered. There is no need to think about the front door. Not only the people sent by the queen from Chuxia Palace have arrived, but also many onlookers have gathered. He only knew that if he continued like this, he would be close to being exposed. If he were to be caught, with his current appearance, he would never be able to see anyone in public. He will become the most talked about emperor in unofficial history and on the stage. He felt like he was going crazy. In the courtyard, eunuch he entered the room and went to check on the emperor's condition. Tao Ran ordered tea and asked Prince Ning to drink it. Prince Ning's eyes were obviously interested, and he had no intention of refusing. Not only did he drink happily, he also started talking to Tao Ran. Eunuch he was also anxious. He couldn't find any reason to drive away the imperial concubine and Prince Ning, and those two people clearly had no intention of leaving. Moreover, both of them said that they simply wanted to wait here for the emperor to wake up. Tao Ran was curious about Prince Ning, so he talked to him casually. When asked, it has been more than a month since Prince Ning came to Beijing and the emperor has not summoned him properly. The emperor has many things to do, so he should not be free. Naturally, Tao Ran would not miss the flash of disdain in Prince Ning's eyes. Haha, that's right. It would be strange if people didn't have any opinions when they transferred people back from thousands of miles away but didn't talk about the business and just let it dry. This is actually the case in the plot. After King Ning returned to Beijing, he was unable to return to the south. The emperor was like holding King Ning hostage. Later, the emperor sent someone to take over the power in Nandi. Nandi was worried about the safety of King Ning and had to delegate power, so the emperor got that part of the military power smoothly. Seeing the search starting everywhere in the palace, the emperor felt that he could not wait any longer. Find a way quickly, the emperor could only force the guard who took him all the way away. The guard knitted his brows and finally said, "My subordinates have shown their faces, so it is difficult to escape. So I will let my subordinates go out and lure them away." Hurry up and go, that's exactly what he meant. As long as the tracked father-in-law shows up, he will definitely attract all the pursuers nearby. The imperial concubine and Prince Ning will definitely be alerted and will definitely pursue them. Then no one would notice him. Then he can be admitted to the hospital smoothly, right? The guard inquired around again. There were too many people at the entrance of the courtyard, and he was not sure how many people he could divert. Therefore, it was best for the emperor to take advantage of the chaos and climb over the wall to enter. But I can't climb the wall. There is a tree. The subordinate tied his belt to the tree, and the emperor pulled the belt up. As long as it can go up half a foot, the emperor can climb up by stepping on the flower window on the exterior wall. After climbing in, the guards and eunuch he must have. If you find out, you will be able to respond to the emperor, and then the emperor will be safe. Okay, let's do it. The emperor sacrificed his personal guard without hesitation. After a few dozen breaths, there was a sudden sound. I saw a fair man jumping over a tree not far away and escaping all the way over cliffs and walls. He immediately attracted attention. There was a commotion outside the courtyard, and the guards began to shout and stop, and guards began to chase the father-in-law. When the noise started, the attention of everyone who came to watch the excitement was also attracted, and most of them suddenly lost their attention. When Tao Ran saw this situation, he immediately understood it, figured out the cause and effect, and knew that the emperor wanted to come in. But King Ning didn't know. When he saw that the guards were chasing the father-in-law, he stood up quickly, hesitated for a moment, and then chased him out. Tao Ran raised his eyebrows. Is this someone with a sense of justice? When eunuch he saw that King Ning had left but the concubine still refused to leave, he immediately stepped forward and wanted to persuade her. The person who dares to climb over the walls in the palace in broad daylight cannot be an assassin, right? No, I have to stay here to protect the emperor. Taoran stood up with a righteous look on his face and worried. She also pointed at the two guards in the courtyard. You two, guard this guest courtyard. If any thieves come in, I promise that you will never see the sun tomorrow. The two guards and eunuch looked at each other, not knowing what to do for a moment. If they left the main door, they were afraid that the imperial concubine would rush in. When the time comes, the house will be empty and the secret will still be revealed. But the brothers suddenly showed up and fled. It was obvious that the emperor was nearby. They had to bring the emperor in, right? The three of them made eye contact, and when they saw the imperial concubine pacing around, they hurriedly exchanged words in a low voice. In this way, you go outside, and then find someone to report outside. Just say that the queen, no, say that the queen has invited the imperial concubine, please go there quickly. Eunuch began to make arrangements. The imperial concubine will definitely go out and ask questions. As soon as she leaves, you should quickly take a look at several nearby walls and bring the emperor in if you find her. If the imperial concubine leaves right now, that's best. If the imperial concubine doesn't leave, then you can leave from there. The emperor was stuffed through the rear window of the clean room. Even if the wall was broken, the emperor had to be allowed into the house. Eunuch arranged it well here, and all three of them felt that this idea was barely feasible. However, the imperial concubine interrupted them with a sudden "Huh? Eh? Why is there a long belt hanging on the tree?" Taoran was about to die laughing. The belt was originally shaking, but when she asked, the belt straightened up. Taoran bent down and picked up a stone, then with all his strength, he aimed it at his belt and hit it. The belt suddenly trembled. Then there was a muffled sound. Boom. Hey, there's someone outside, maybe he wants to commit suicide, right? Taoran waved his hand, signaling Ji Xiangruyi, you two, hurry up and take a look at the back wall outside the courtyard. The two girls hurried out of the hospital. The sweaty eunuch and two guards stopped them. What's wrong? What happened? The delaying intention became slightly obvious. Someone outside seems to have committed suicide, please go take a look. Eunuch was about to issue an order for the guards to go and take a look, but Taoran's voice came again, you guys should guard the courtyard. There has been some unrest in the palace recently, and there have been assassins one after another. It is important to protect the emperor. Anyone who leaves his post without permission will be punished by death. Eunuch's eyes almost bulged out. He felt that just 2/4 of an hour had passed as long as 2 months. Then you two stay while we go out and take a look. He gave a signal and asked a guard to watch the front door to prevent the imperial concubine from entering the main room. Another guard went to the back wall to keep an eye on the concubine, trying to divert her attention. Eunuch grabbed Ji Xiangruyi and said, wait for us. He looked like he was crying. He tried his best to hold back the concubine and the two maids. The emperor had to hide quickly or think of a countermeasure. Otherwise, he might not survive today. The emperor is the destined emperor, and with God's protection, he will definitely be able to turn danger into safety. The boat will naturally straighten when it reaches the bridge, and everything will be fine, right? The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 238. Jixiang Ruyi's exclamation started, and then stopped abruptly. Even Eunuch was panicked for a while, and after saying emperor, he swallowed his words again. Taoran felt that the voice was not quite right, and couldn't help but be curious. Afterwards, she didn't know whether to say whether the emperor was lucky or unlucky. It turned out that the emperor had worked hard to climb the tree, and when he saw that his feet could reach the flower window, he was discovered by the imperial concubine. As soon as the imperial concubine made a move, the emperor's hand shook and went numb, and he fell to the ground again. When he heard that the imperial concubine was disturbed and sent someone to check, the emperor panicked. This bush was the only place he could hide nearby. So there was no way he could escape. What's worse is that as soon as the emperor got up from the ground, he looked at a little palace maid who was attracted by the noise here. The palace maid glanced at the emperor up and down, with a look of disbelief on her face, and then fell to her knees with a bang. The emperor's heart was beating like a drum, and he could faintly hear that his bodyguard was being stopped by the imperial concubine, and only eunuch he was rushing to rescue him. How is this good? It's too late to kill someone and silence them now, right? The emperor was in the midst of lightning and flint, but an idea suddenly occurred to him. He suddenly thought of a way to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Not only can he shut up the little palace maid in front of him, but he can also not be afraid of the palace maids who come to check on the imperial concubine, and he can also temporarily stop the endless avoidance. Although this method is not very good, it is the least harmful to each power, which can at least get him out of the crisis when he is exhausted. Anyway, when he was drunk, nothing he did would be too outrageous, right? So, he suddenly rushed out and dragged the palace maid past. He dragged her with one hand and covered her mouth with the other, dragging the palace maid directly into the bushes. There was a crash, but the palace maid didn't react, and her coat was torn. Before anyone came over, the emperor took off his clothes again, and then rolled into the mud with the palace maid. In this way, his dirty clothes could be explained as it was caused by rolling in the grass. Do as I say, and I will make you a noble. The emperor's visit was a common thing. He was drunk, so he was excusable. Who can blame him before the facts come true? The emperor felt more and more that his idea was good. All he had to do was pretend to be drunk and wake up knowing nothing. So, Ji Xiangruyi followed the route of the wall and pulled through the bushes to find it, and what he saw was the scene that might have the eye of a needle. This scene was obviously not what the 2 girls expected. The 2 of them really screamed and covered their mouths subconsciously. Eunuch He, who had the same reaction as them, was also startled, and then he opened his hands to protect himself in front of the bushes. Shut up. If you don't want to die, shut up. Ji Xiangruyi looked at each other, not knowing what to do for a moment. But Eunuch He immediately calmed down. It's okay, there are only 5 people here including him. As long as you don't alarm others, nothing will happen. Your Majesty. Eunuch He asked softly. The emperor is drunk. The little palace maid cried. Eunuch He was about to ask the 2 guards to get the emperor into the wall while there was no one around, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he froze there. He only saw that the imperial concubine had arrived in a hurry. The point is, there was a large group of people behind him. There is even a female officer of the queen among them. There are hundreds of people. How can you hide this? How could he sneak the emperor into the courtyard? Tao Ran was here to cause trouble. How could she make it so easy for the emperor? As soon as she heard something was wrong outside, she leaned on the wall and took a look. She immediately understood the emperor's idea and almost rushed out of the gate quickly. Since the news about Chuxiu Palace had spread throughout the palace, Bai Ling, who came to report to the emperor about Chiu Mei's personnel affairs, was followed by a crowd of spectators following the queen's order. When Bai Ling saw the imperial concubine looking at her, she was still shouting something happened, so she picked up her skirt and quickly followed her. As soon as they ran, everyone behind them followed them. More and more people are following, and even the nearby palace guards have joined the team and are coming here together. Seeing so many people, the dumbfounded eunuch he swung his arms and stamped his feet, stammering and calling to the guards to get the blanket. The emperor, who was pretending to be drunk, almost jumped up when he heard the whistling sound. What happened today? Why can't anything go smoothly? He could only continue to pretend to be drunk, pretend to be asleep, and pretend to be unconscious. Eunuch he asked everyone to retreat. But there are so many people, who will pay attention to him? The blanket was quickly brought, and the emperor was wrapped in a blanket by the guards in full view of everyone. And it was only then that many people saw that there was a disheveled maid under the emperor. The palace maid had an expression on her face, and her face was red. What did she just do? Do you need to say anything? The emperor was carried back to Funing Palace as quickly as possible. Eunuch, he warned everyone, the emperor is drunk, nothing happened. Whoever dares to talk nonsense, be careful with your tongue. Bala, he did his duty, and after a lot of threats, he trotted away. Okay, the banquet is still going on, everyone, please stop gathering here and do what you have to do. Among all the people present, Taoran, the imperial concubine, had the highest status, so she turned around and gave the order, and everyone immediately sprang around. Spread out. Keep silent. That is impossible. Taoran strode ahead, she was taking everyone back to the banquet. It's so exciting, so naturally everyone will enjoy it. Many princes and princesses are here, and the 4 important ministers have also come to celebrate their birthdays. The 2 scenes in the harem are better than those in the troupe, right? Now if these elders don't come out to take charge of the overall situation, what use are they? 2/4 of an hour later, everything that had just happened spread throughout the banquet. Half an hour later, no one in the entire palace knew what happened today. Of course, the queen and the concubines' people secretly fueled the situation, so among the various hearsays, the rumors not only spread quickly, but also became more exaggerated. When the news came to the banquet, many people had already confirmed that the emperor was angry, so he deliberately pretended to be drunk and jumped over the wall to cause trouble, was discovered on purpose, and chose the palace maid at random. This was a means of protest and venting. The concubine celebrating her birthday was so angry that her whole body was trembling as she stood up. Who is the emperor slapping in the face? The AI family cannot say that the emperor is unfilial, but the emperor does not take the late emperor into consideration too much. Why are you celebrating this birthday? The 2 of them want to make the AI family angry to death. The concubine burst into tears and finally fell down unconscious. The banquet was in chaos. The queen burst into tears, knelt in front of the concubine with a plop, and shouted that she was unfilial. The elders were filled with indignation, and the guests were also sighing. On the occasion of this elder's birthday, it is indeed unseemly and unfilial to profess his sexual intercourse in the daytime. And in broad daylight, in full view of everyone, aren't you slapping the concubine in the face? The concubine and the queen both have the surname Chen. Today, not only the old man of the Chen family is present, but also several elders of the elders. No matter what, the emperor's actions are a slap in the face of the elders. The 4 ministers who took care of life also looked extremely ugly at this moment. The late emperor handed over the emperor to them, but the emperor was so embarrassed. Isn't this a slap in their face? The emperors were young and could act wildly, but they would be stabbed in the spine. Not to mention the elders of the clan. At this time, of course, I felt very shameless. Therefore, although the banquet existed in name only, these people did not leave. The elders and relatives of the clan all wanted to wait until the emperor woke up to have a good talk. Today's banquet in the palace really exposed a lot of problems. Instead of sitting here and wasting time drinking, why not serve the emperor well? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 239. At this time, all the elders who had worried about state affairs for many years gathered together and prepared to help the emperor clean up the family and rectify the palace affairs. From several ministers who cared about life, to royal in-laws, to Prince Hung who managed clan affairs, everyone was present. After the acupuncture, the concubine faintly woke up. In order to give her old man an explanation, she was invited to sit down. After the queen and the noble concubine looked at each other, they turned their attention to the concubine and the elders of the Chen family. Several elders of the Chen family frequently looked at each other, and then looked at the four Gugu, who all looked unhappy. Order the minister over and over again. No one said anything, but they all had a decision in their hearts: the emperor had to take care of himself. Since he planned to get drunk, they should do a favor for him while he was still awake. Yes, everyone basically concluded that the emperor was pretending to be drunk. Half a quarter of an hour ago, two ministers who took care of life took Dru to see the emperor. But eunuch he blocked it and refused to let the imperial doctor see him. When he heard that the imperial doctor wanted to perform an acupuncture, eunuch he almost called the guards and refused to let them come forward. The guilty look on his face was clearly deceitful, which made them even more convinced that the emperor was pretending to be drunk. If the emperor was drunk, there would naturally be nothing to say about today's affairs. It's an unconscious act, nothing more than embarrassing. But if you pretend to be drunk, the nature is completely different. Therefore, several ministers who cared about their lives were disappointed and even sadder. They have been let down. They naturally hope that the emperor will be well. Are they really unwilling to delegate power? Are they deliberately trying to evade the emperor? How could be? It's not because the emperor grew up in a place of confinement. Unlike the princes who grew up in elementary school, he really doesn't know much, has limited talents, and has mediocre abilities. Although he is ambitious, he has no pragmatism at all. Of course, these are not big problems. Therefore, they wanted the emperor to listen more, read more, and learn more. When he grew up quickly, they would help him become a wise king as the late emperor had asked him to do. The results of it? They kept their promise, but the emperor misunderstood and was hostile to all of them. Everyone saw the emperor's attitude towards the Chen family. The Chen family has been loyal for generations, and Empress Chen is also outstanding, but the emperor's attitude towards the Chen family, the empress, and the concubine, almost makes them a target. Isn't this a protest against the late emperor's decision? As long as he has some filial piety, he must also take into account the face of the queen and concubine, right? Filial piety comes first among all good deeds. If you can't even be filial, how can you expect that person to have any other good qualities? Just like that, before I knew it, disappointment had filled the whole room. Everyone decided to start with the poisonous group around the emperor. The first person to be punished was the captain of the guard who was in charge of the banquet today. Well, he was a close confidant of the emperor and also a bodyguard of the emperor in his early years outside the palace. This man was not capable enough, so the emperor protected him all the way. It should have been removed long ago. The second person to be punished was eunuch he. No matter whether the emperor was really drunk or not, as the person closest to the emperor, he failed to protect the emperor and made the emperor make a fool of himself, which was a serious dereliction of duty. He also contradicted the imperial concubine and the prince, helped the emperor lie and cover up, and other crimes, and was unanimously approved, death. The next ones to be punished were the two guards in the guest house. The following crimes, for which the evidence is conclusive, are also capital crimes. In addition, the entire bodyguard team that the emperor brought with him was mobilized and replaced by a team from the imperial guard who were loyal to the late emperor rather than the emperor. The emperor can't let him do anything about it. If he is obedient, everything will be fine. Otherwise. Taoran secretly exchanged glances with the queen. Both of them looked happy. Very good. This is one of their goals. He spent a lot of time playing a trick just to cut off the emperor's wings. What the emperor will face next will become increasingly difficult. After dealing with the group of people around the emperor, Yerukia was also brought up at the request of the concubine. Is this necessary to discuss? Just kill him, Prince Hong made the final decision. The royal family has lost all face because of her. The royal family would rather kill someone like this by mistake than let him go. Everyone nodded. At the concubine's signal, the queen was about to ask someone to draft the decree, but the emperor suddenly appeared angrily. The queen is so grand. Do you have to skip me when dealing with my concubines? The emperor was angry and anxious, but he could see that everyone's expressions darkened again. If it was just suspected that the emperor was pretending to be drunk before, now, it is clear at a glance. Look at the emperor in front of you. His hands and feet are strong and his speech is clear. Not to mention drunk, he doesn't even look like he's drunk. You have killed my men, and you are going to kill my women, the emperor gritted his teeth. I was caught having an affair with someone, and the emperor still wants to defend me. Prince Hung was also angry. Your Majesty, don't you mind the color of your hair at all? What does it mean to be caught alive? Where is the person who had an affair with Chiumiran? Where is it? You haven't even caught anyone, how can you judge Chiumiran's crime? Since there is no direct evidence, it is slander. My woman, I will figure it out for myself, let's see what happens. Everyone was speechless for a moment. There is indeed no direct evidence. When the father-in-law who was flying over the wall was about to be caught by them, he hit the rockery directly. Committed suicide. How brave, blood splattered on the spot. Who is this directed at? On the concubine's birthday, she committed suicide directly, how arrogant and domineering. When they inspected the body, they discovered that the father-in-law was fake. There were calluses on the tiger's right hand, and he was obviously used to using a sword. And he clearly hit his head on the rockery on purpose and made his face bloody, obviously because he was afraid that they would find out his identity. No matter how you look at it, he is most likely a guard walking in the palace. Unbecoming. It is also for this reason that everyone feels that the palace guards must be cleaned up. And all aspects seem to be slapping the concubine in the face. Based on the emperor's performance today, it was difficult for them not to feel that maybe all the sources were on the emperor. Once the fake father-in-law dies, all clues are lost. Where his other accomplice had gone, they had no idea. But does this kind of thing really have to be caught on the bed? Can the emperor still take chances with this kind of thing? Did he not count the impact this would have on the reputation of the royal family, the reputation of the harem, and him as the emperor? It was difficult for everyone not to frown at the emperor again. Your Majesty, the matter of Chiumiran has all the witnesses and material evidence. Balabala, the queen stepped forward and spoke earnestly. I didn't believe it at first, so I rushed there as soon as possible, but... Okay, there's no need for the queen to be pretentious. The emperor was already on the verge of losing control and interrupted the queen in front of everyone. Chiume has offended you. If you have such a chance, how can you let her go? What is the emperor talking about? The queen's eyes turned red. I am the kind of person who avenges private revenge. I am. Shut up, the emperor was going crazy. What you call physical evidence is all speculation. Rongjiu has a grudge against Chiumiran. Who knows if she was deliberately framed? How did the emperor know that Rongjiu had a grudge against Chiumiran? Taoran suddenly interrupted. The emperor gritted his molars and said, My dear concubine, you have forgotten that Rongjiu is your cousin. It was you, dear concubine, who told me about this. The emperor winked at Taoran. Today is my holiday, I really want to go on strike. I wish you all a happy holiday. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 240. Taoran's acting skills have improved. What does the emperor mean by this? Has the emperor remembered the wrong person? She was stunned for several breaths. Chen concubine and Rongjiu have already established a mutual agreement, not to interfere with each other, and have nothing to do with each other. Concubine Chen's family has also made it clear long ago that they will not have anything to do with the Ji family. Concubine Chen has never been to Chuxiu Palace, and I haven't seen Rong Jiu for more than a month. After saying that, Rong and ordered Ruyi to get the receipt. The emperor was extremely irritable. Rong Jiu. I want to interrogate her personally, he darkened his eyes. Everyone frowned again. Wasn't it Chiu Myron who did something wrong? The emperor wants to interrogate Rong Jiu. What made everyone even more dissatisfied with the emperor was that at this time, the emperor's left and right arms were removed. He didn't care about his newly dismissed confidants. Instead of interceding for them, he only thought about a woman who fell in love with him. This emperor has no brain, right? The concubine said coldly, since we want to interrogate, we simply summon Chiu Myron together. The emperor opened his mouth but never refused. The elders were disappointed with the emperor, but after all, the emperor was chosen by the late emperor, and the veterans were not ready to give up on him completely. Several ministers who cared about life had no choice but to be patient and start to understand them. However, the emperor was obviously not interested in preaching. He almost stared at the door and his attitude was too perfunctory, which made everyone even more dissatisfied. Not long after, someone came from outside to report something urgent. A trace of joy flashed across the emperor's face, while Tao Ran and the queen raised their eyebrows together and exchanged glances. The visitor reported, Rong Jiu was walking halfway, and an assassin ran out of nowhere. He aimed at Rong Jiu and chopped. The emperor's body had an obvious lean back, and his face was much looser. Well, Ji Rong is dead, and the only conclusive witness is gone. Who else can testify against his Kyokiu? But fortunately, the servant who reported the matter gasped heavily. Fortunately, the defense was urgently increased not long ago, so the newly transferred chief of guards and Prince Ning worked together to prevent the assassination. Can you speak? The emperor was angry. So what happened to Rong Jiu? Is she dead? I come to see the emperor. As soon as the emperor finished speaking, a voice full of grievances reached his ears. Isn't it Ji Rong who's coming? The emperor looked her up and down. This damn woman, damn her. Although she was helped in, it was obvious that the injury was from the previous fight in Chuxiu Palace. Not only did the emperor wilt, but his entire face also turned very dark. Ji Rong is intact, so the people he sent out. Sure enough, several men in black with their jaws removed were brought in. That's unreasonable, everyone was shocked. It would be too arrogant to shout and kill directly in the palace. Prince Ning stepped forward and said, they all have poison sacs in their teeth. They came here with the intention of death. Queen, so these people are dead soldiers. Princess, who has such hatred against Rong Jiu? Only then did Ji Rong realize how much work she had done. She knelt down in fright and pointed at Yerukiu, who had just been brought here. It must be Beauty Chiu. I am only having trouble with Beauty Chiu in the palace, so please be aware of this. Idiot Ji Rong, until this moment, thought that the only one who could help her was the emperor. I still feel that the reason why she escaped from danger just now was because of good luck. Your Majesty, I discovered Chiu Myron's scandal today, so Chiu Myron became furious and ordered someone to assassinate me. I can swear that this matter has nothing to do with Chiu Myron. I came with Chiu Myron, but why are these men in black all here for me? Beauty Chiu is standing there, unprotected and unharmed. The only one who can do this is Beauty Chiu. Ji Rong was anxious to bite Yerukiu, but naturally everyone would not be led away by her. Who is Yerukiu? After today's scandal came out, the Ye family's background was completely exposed. If her family had that ability, would they still have to beg and rely on the concubine's family for many years? Besides, this is the palace. If cats and dogs have no identities, how can they come in quietly? Still a dead soldier. There are not many people in the palace who can easily use dead soldiers. Many people began to turn their attention to the emperor. Who said that his expression was so bad and he was still protecting Chiumiran just now? Could it be that the emperor did it for Yerukiu? So both the queen and Taoran started to watch the show. They had used Jirong before, so how could they not have thought that the best way for the emperor to protect Yerukiu was to get rid of Jirong? Of course, as the culprit Jirong, the emperor could not let him go. So after the incident, the queen arranged for someone to go to Chuxiu Palace to secretly protect Jirong and watch over Yerukiu. Just now the emperor suddenly asked to summon Jirong. In fact they guessed that the emperor was going to take action. With this awareness, how could the emperor's actions be successful? Even though his men were attacking fiercely, they couldn't stop the opponent from taking precautions. They failed in the sneak attack, but were captured alive because of the intervention of the Imperial Forest Army and Prince Ning, who descended from the sky. The emperor was about to faint with anger. Did he really want to interrogate Jirong? He just wanted to deal with Jirong quietly on her way here. As long as Jirong is dead, Kyokiu will be fine. Even if someone doubts him, there is no evidence, right? The emperor had made a plan. He originally planned to blame the assassin who had previously assassinated the imperial concubine. First the imperial concubine was assassinated, and then Jirong today. Since the two families were so close, he could lead the spearhead to the general's mansion and lead the person behind the killer to the queen. But the imperial concubine had cut off her relationship with the Ji family. Not only did Jirong not die, but she still bit Yerukiu to death. And the evidence about the Chen family that his people originally planned to stuff in Jirong's dead body failed. What a complete failure today. Jirong, who was kneeling on the ground, began to vividly describe what she saw and heard today. Compared with her speech in the afternoon, what she said at this moment was more vivid and specific, and it bit Yerukiu to death. The more she revealed the truth, the more Yerukiu would die. Death, the concubine said. No, the emperor disobeyed the concubine again. Emperor, the royal family cannot afford to be embarrassed like this. I am the emperor. If I say no, it won't do. Your Majesty has gone too far, the four ministers and Prince Hung spoke up at the same time. Your Majesty, filial piety comes first. Watch your words. Your Majesty. The concubine's voice trembled. The emperor must not be confused. How can the emperor ignore the dignity of the royal family for the sake of a mere woman? Then do you think I am the emperor? I can't even protect a mere woman, so what kind of emperor am I? The emperor became more and more excited, and directly protected Yerukiu, looking around at everyone in the hall. The emperor has reached the point where he is willing to disobey all the elders for this woman. If you regard me as the emperor, then leave Chiumiran's disposal to me. Otherwise, you will admit that I am just a puppet emperor. All the veterans gasped one after another, okay, this is a direct threat.